What's up, guys? We got a great show tonight. We have Matt Price from the Dynasty League Football Podcast joining us on Armchair. The topics that we have tonight, we're going to be doing some this or that, rankings versus ADP. Of course, do some listening questions. And as always, our forgotten fantasy player. Let's go ahead and hit the intro music and get right into it.
Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 378 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we're part of the Going for Two Live podcast network right here on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, and Twitter. We're also, of course, on all major podcast networks and at goingfor2.live. We were not here last week and the week before that. My co-host was not with me, so Ryan's been gone for a couple of weeks. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, not much, man. I like the new intro. It sounds real professional. You didn't sound like a complete novice doing it, so that was awesome. But it's good to be back.
Appreciate that, sir. Appreciate that. For those of y'all that are new to the show, we typically run the music from the get-go, but somebody told me that the YouTube algorithm likes it when you do the show topics at the top of the show and then hit the show intro, so we're mixing it up a little bit, trying to please the YouTube algorithm.
Don't tell people you're tricking them. Just don't do that.
All right, joining us tonight, he is the senior writer for DLF Football. He is also the co-host of the DLF podcast and Dynasty Game Night. Recently engaged, from what I hear in his last podcast episode, Mr. Matt Price at Matt Price DLF. What's up, Matt?
Not much, fellas. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invite. Always love coming in and talking football, so appreciate it. This is a new show for me. Do you guys have a podcast version of this show?
We do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's probably in my I don't really listen to any show like constantly, but everything's like kind of flip around in rotation. So pretty sure I've heard you guys before. But I think we've talked on Twitter a few times. But it's good to see you in person, man.
Absolutely. I think we've had Ryan on a few times, and I've been wanting to get you and Dan on. I'll try to get Dan on at some point this off season. But your podcast, the DLF podcast, honestly, Spotify does their year-end rankings, and your podcast is my number one ranked podcast for the season. Oh
man, thank you so much.
Anything else? So I love
to hear.
The show.
Appreciate it.
So real quick, give my listeners a quick rundown of what you do over at DLF.
Yeah, I write for them, occasionally. Last year I had the rookie report card article, which was all season long. Right now I don't really have a weekly column or anything, so it's really just the podcast. And then when we have time, John Bosch and Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher and Rocky Petrella and I, we do the Dynasty Game Night, which is basically a game we call it a game show about the game that we play, about the game that we watch on Sunday. So we play, Jeopardy style games. We play Wheel of Fortune style games. We have a thing called a name game. That's kind of like the show's calling card, so to speak. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you like game shows, check that out. We haven't had a new episode since the Eliminators came out, because we all work with those and with SFB and stuff. So I've been pretty busy setting up leads and stuff for that lately. But yeah, that's a great show if you like games. And then the DLF Dynasty podcast has been running we're on episode 625, I think, this past week. You guys are up there too, obviously, 378 tonight. But yeah, so it's the longest running Dynasty focused podcast. It's been running for over a decade, pretty much every single week. I think there was maybe 1 week that was missed somewhere in there, but for the most part, every single week we talk Dynasty. So, so it's a good show. It's a fun show.
Definitely is. I recommend it highly for sure. All right, as always, today's show brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues, huge tournament, private leagues, and pick'ems for all major sports. Use our promo code GF2, get bonus bucks up to $250. Simple as that. Sign up, use our promo code GF2, and you can start drafting. And speaking of draft, let's go ahead and get into our nonsense draft.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
All right, so we've been doing these nonsense drafts for almost 2 years now, Ryan, and it's it's getting real tough to come up with some topics here. And tonight's topic is particularly tough. So we are drafting fictional post-apocalyptic worlds to live in if we were forced to choose to live in one. And as always, the guest gets to go first. So Matt, what is your 101 post-apocalyptic world you want to live in?
I mean, there's none basically, right, that I want to live in, but I like driving fast cars and off-roading. I have a Jeep, so I do that kind of stuff. Doing camping and things like that. We go over, pretty technical rock climbing and stuff like that with my Jeeps. So like cars, I'm gonna have to go with Mad Max Thunder Road as the number one pick. And if I make it to that. I don't know if this is a spoiler for people if they haven't seen that movie. It's the newest Mad Max. Actually, I think there's a new one that just came out. I haven't seen it, Furiosa or something. But anyway, At the end of it, there's a big island sanctuary thing where waterfalls fall. So you're not just always out in the desert driving cars. You got a nice kind of tropical oasis to go home to as well.
Nice. I love it. All right, Ryan, you got the 102 tonight.
People say ignorance is bliss. So I'm going with the Matrix because I would have no idea I'm in the apocalypse, and I'd just be going about my life the way it is now. Because everywhere else it sounds terrible, and I'm gonna go with the least terrible.
Yeah. You don't want to take the red pill and find out what it's actually like, and then when you get popped back in, you can control everything and make you look however you want. Whatever amount of money you want. It seems like it'd be pretty fun to not be plugged in.
That could be, but then you're getting hunted, and
that's true. You don't want to get hunted. That seems like a stressful life, I guess.
It seems stressful.
Ryan's too lazy for that. Ryan's too lazy for that. He just wants to sit around and play video games.
I just want to enjoy my life, man. If I'm going to be a rechargeable battery, so be it.
That's fair.
Ryan, you definitely sniped me. I thought for sure that one would sneak by because I was like, I'm going to do the same thing and just, it's post-apocalyptic, but you don't actually know that, so it's not a big deal. But of course, you sniped me, so I'm going to go with a show that I'm actually watching with my wife and daughter, and the third season just dropped just recently, and it's not as popular as some of these on the list, but Sweet Tooth. Essentially, it's some kind of virus, and it kills all these people, but then the babies that are born after this virus are all hybrids. They're all some type of animal, and they're trying to figure out the cure to this whole disease. So it's post-apocalyptic, but obviously my daughter's watching it, so it's not too terrible of a world. But yeah, so Sweet Tooth is the world I would pick if I couldn't pick the Matrix, since Ryan sniped me at the 102 there. All right, Matt, back to you here at the 201.
Yeah, there's a lot of good choices. Matrix was definitely on my list. Sweet Tooth, I've seen, I think, a few episodes. I need to go back and maybe watch that. Man, I said there's none that I really want to live in, but now there's 7 that I want to talk about. But I'll go with I'm gonna go with WALL-E, because the humans in that, you talk about just sitting back and playing video games. Those humans in that, they just sit back in their chairs, they float around, they have their screens in front of them, they have the robots that come up and serve them drinks every where they just press a button and a drink shows up. So that seems like pretty good. If I just want to completely check out of society and live my best life online or in a digital realm or whatever, that seems like a pretty good spot to be for robots to take care of me.
Great choice. I did not have that one on my list. That is a great choice. I love that one for sure. All right, Ryan, you got the 202 here.
That gave me a good one, but I feel like it'd just be kind of copying, so I'm going to skip that. I might come back to it later, but yeah. I'm going super selfish because this is only really affects the youngins who are ages 12 to 18. That's the Hunger Games. Yeah. I'm old now. I got to worry about that.
You're not being selected to fight.
I'm just going to watch people fight on TV. We're good.
Yeah, but you might be in whatever the last district is, and then you're just like you break rocks for a living. That doesn't seem. You get to watch the kids fight. So that's
I could be in the rich district too. Never know.
It's true. You could. You're a broadcaster, so you probably would be.
Yeah, that's true. You'll be broadcasting the games. We'll be talking about it every week.
Dude, instead of fantasy football, we're doing fantasy Hunger Games. Have their own gambling show. I love it.
Seems plausible.
All right, I'm up at the 203 here, and there's not any that I would want to live in. So I'm trying to pick ones that are semi-normal life. But if y'all ever seen the show Silo,
oh yeah, it's a great one.
It's a great. They live underground, and I know everybody wants to see what's outside, but all in all, your life isn't too terrible. I mean, it's not the best place to live in, but seems pretty normal. Unless you really want to go outside. And then, of course, I'm not going to ruin the end for anybody. But great show. But Silo would be my 203 here.
We need a season 2 of that, man. It hasn't come out yet, right? I dropped Apple TV for a few months, but I'm looking forward for that coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see what happened at the end there. All right, this is your last pick here, Matt. What you got?
Man, there's so many to choose from. I'm going to go, I guess, maybe a lesser known one too. I think it used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. It's a movie called Love and Monsters. And it's about like this, I don't know how old he is, probably a young guy who, like, the apocalypse happens. There's monsters everywhere. He ends up on one side of the world. His girlfriend or love interest ends up on the other side of the world. And he's got to go through and fight through all these cool monsters and stuff to get back to the love of his life. And there's like these tribes of like kids that have taken over the mall, and like, wow. It seems like a world you could like do well in and also have fun like shooting monsters. It seems like most of the monsters, while they're terrifying and could absolutely destroy you, like also seem pretty dumb. So just walk around with cool weapons, shooting monsters, finding the love of your life. It seems like kids have taken over this world, so probably a pretty fun place.
I love it. All right, Ryan, what's your last pick here at the 302?
I feel like it'd be wrong not to bring up a world where zombies are, because like that's the most common with the apocalypse. And I'm trying to think of one that's not a terrible one. And I'm going with Zombieland because, I mean,
you bastard.
You got some real turds surviving there. And I figure if they can, I can. I mean, Bill Murray just pretended to be a zombie so he could go golfing all day. It can't be that bad.
You bastard, you sniped me again. I was going to go on a whole Twinkie tangent, and how, Twinkies are still in that world, we're good to go. So, but once again, Ryan, you sniped me. All right, so I'm not left with a whole lot. I guess I'll go with another zombie-ish. It's a recent show. I think HBO Max had this one. I think it was also a video game, but The Last of Us.
It's a great one.
Tough world to live in because the zombies seem like they're pretty badass.
I played that game, dude.
Yeah,
that's bottom of my list. Those clickers, I still like have twitches from them.
Yeah, and see, you played the game, so there wasn't a whole lot of it in the show, so I really can't speak to a whole bunch of it. But it seemed like they didn't see a whole lot of the zombies. It was more the humans you had to worry about. And if you lived out in the middle of nowhere, it seemed like you were pretty okay. So I'm gonna go with that Last of Us here to finish this out. All right, let's get to some real football stuff now.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, this first note I got here, Matt. T. Higgins signs his franchise tag. I know there was, a potential that he could be traded, and there was all these rumors going around he's going to end up somewhere else. With him now returning to, what we think is going to be a pretty good offense this year as the number 2 receiver in that offense. How do you feel as a Dynasty owner about T. Higgins going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fine signing. I mean, it was, selfishly, I kind of wanted to see what it looked like if he went to a team. I don't know, maybe like just off the top of my head, someplace like Carolina that needs a true alpha, and see if he could truly be that, because he's just always going to be under the shadow of Jamar Chase, obviously. But this is good for the entire offense, good for the team. Keep the band back together for another year, and see if you can work something out over the course of the year. I think they have until July or something to work out something long term for this year. But if not, then obviously you've got to pay Jamar next year. So we'll see what happens in the future. But for this year, I mean, why not bring the band back together if you can and try to make a run?
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on T. Higgins, Ryan? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it gives us it gives us like a good idea of what to expect this year. I mean, if they don't sign him this year, there's no way he's getting double franchise tag next year because how much money that is. So either way, we're going to have some clarity on the situation by the time next year comes. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with him there.
I'm with you all 100%. I think, you know what to expect, at least in this offense. I think if he had, ended up somewhere else, it's, is he really the alpha? Can he be the alpha? I think you know what you're going to get with T. Higgins. And this should be a very good offense. So if I'm a dynasty owner, I'm pretty happy. And then who knows, maybe next year he is somewhere else and we still get that opportunity to see what he can be in a different offense. Ryan, this next note I have here is about the Los Angeles Rams backfield and Blake Corum making a good impression. Kyren Williams had a bit of an injury. I believe he's back at, healthy now, but it gave Blake Corum a chance to sort of work with the ones. What are your thoughts on Blake Corum as a dynasty asset, and do you think he eventually could take over for Kyren Williams in that offense?
I think at where he's priced at, it's really good because I think it could be a split backfield now, but with the way running back position is and injuries are, if something would happen to Kyren where he's either not playing early or gets nicked up late, we've seen a full workload just be interchangeable for fantasy production of that offense. So it's a handcuff I'd like to take a chance on for him. So I like the idea of Blake Corum. And I like the talent because I think he runs hard. He knows how to get in the end zone. It's a very kind of interchangeable player, honestly. So I think it fits with nicely.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, Matt? What are your thoughts on Blake Corum and his dynasty outlook here?
Yeah, as a prospect, I really didn't like him a whole lot compared to other running backs that were going in his range. But it's hard to ignore the situation, especially with this foot injury for Kyren. Yes, it seems like he's back, and there's been plenty of OTA videos of Kyren out there running gauntlet drills and stuff like that, so he's probably fine. But it is worrisome, so that made me immediately feel like I don't have enough of Blake Corum. I actually have 0 shares of Blake Corum, so I'm trying to make up for it a little bit in best ball leagues. But he's just such a tough prospect, I think, because he's undersized. He's an undersized 2-down back. That we'll see if he's going to catch patches in the offense. I don't know. I don't think he's nearly as good at it as Kyren Williams is. But Michigan, they ran a lot of 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field, and that made him an incredibly efficient inside runner for his size, especially around the goal line. And he reminds me a little bit of Aaron Jones in that regard, near the goal line, a little bit of undersized back that just has the knows how to get in. And he's squeezed through those small holes and make it in there. So I'm optimistic. And if anything happens to Kyren, then it seems wheels up. It seems like he's going to be the guy. It doesn't seem like Zach. Oh my God, I forget. Zach Thomas from last year. Is that the right name? Zach something. Anyway, he was somebody that was kind of a darling a little bit in the preseason, but he never emerged during the regular season with Kyren getting like 90% of the workload. So it seems like he's out of the picture. So yeah, he's going to be a great handcuff. And if they decide that they truly don't want to give Kyren Williams literally 90% of the workload and return punts and do everything on special teams too, then I think he's going to be just fine as a little bit of standalone value and a smash if something does happen to Kyren.
Yeah, and I think Zach Evans, is that the name we're looking for?
Zach Evans. That's not Zach Thomas. Who the heck is Zach Thomas? I don't even know who that is, but
you'll run back to the Dolphins. It's okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking Zach Stacy, so you're not alone.
Zach Stacy.
Well, you have the right team at least, right? The Rams. So it ended up with 2 quarterback notes here. Just real quick, Trevor Lawrence signs, he is now tied for the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, which quarterbacks is going to happen. But Ryan, were you surprised at this? We didn't hear any rumors about contract talks, nothing. It just kind of came out of the blue. Trevor Lawrence signs a huge contract. What are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, it makes sense to me. I know a lot of people kind of were against it and think he underperformed. He was still a 4,000-yard passer last year, and we saw huge jumps when Christian Kirk was on the field. I think they showed with the receivers they brought in, with drafting Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis. They give him more of a variety of players and weapons to go with Ingram and Kirk. I really like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a huge value now. And the fact that the team showed they believed in him, I think as a community, we should be a little bit more up on him than QB 13 right now.
Yeah, I was just going to throw it to Matt and say, I currently still have him in the QB1 dynasty range, but I know I'm sort of in the minority. Where do you stand with Trevor Lawrence, Matt? Are you a QB1 guy, or are you still have him as the high-end QB2?
Yeah, he's not quite a quarterback one for me, but just because he does provide a little bit of rushing, but not enough to get me super excited about. If you guys have listened to the DLF show, you know that I'm kind of a snob for quarterbacks. I want to have some kind of rushing element for my quarterback 1 range. So I'd be thrilled to have Lawrence as my quarterback 2. And I do think he's very set up for success this year. He's got finally got four legit receiving weapons out there. He's got a running back that can also catch passes, although I don't know how much of work in that regard that Etienne's going to get this year with all those excellent receivers that are going to be out there. So, and as far as this like contract, it was just inevitable. Like we still have Dak Prescott coming up. We have Tua Tagovailoa's contract coming up. We have Jordan Love's contract coming up. So it was really smart for the Jaguars, honestly, to go ahead and get this done, because if you're an above average quarterback in the league, you're just going to keep escalating that annual salary, right? It's just going to keep going up. I don't know what I think Dallas, like, they should have jumped on Dak last year. They did this the last time he was up for contract too. It just seems like he's going to have to walk. There's no way they're going to be able to pay both CeeDee Lamb and him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. So, maybe Trevor Lawrence isn't a top 5 NFL or dynasty quarterback, but he's an above average starter, and he's sure a lot better than, more than half of the teams out there, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say you fast forward to a year from now, let's say Lawrence has the year that, we think he can have. He could be considered a bargain at that point. Once, Dak gets paid and a couple other quarterbacks get their money, he could be the bargain here. So, yeah, Jack's made a good call there for sure. All right, let's get into some this or that.
It's time for this or that.
All right, so this or that today is going to be, it's kind of a new thing for us. I'm doing rankings versus ADP. I essentially took all of DLF's rankings and compared them side by side to DLF's ADP. We're doing Superflex on both rankings and in ADP, and kind of got the differences between some of them. I selected a handful of players out of each that we'll kind of talk about a little bit of a couple of them tonight, and just kind of say, are they a value because, they're being ranked higher than they're being drafted, or, are they being overdrafted, based on where they're ranking? And we're going to talk about a couple players tonight. But Matt, why don't you go ahead and give us one of your players that you wanted to talk about tonight?
I mean, you set it up for me. You said you took all the rookies off of here except for Ray Davis, because I love Ray Davis, and I do. So let's talk about Ray Davis. He's got an ADP of 185 overall, 161 overall, and he's ranked 185 overall. I currently at running back 54. I currently have him, I believe, at running back 29, 30, something like that. So I'm well ahead of the consensus ranking is on him. I just think that he's completely set up for success. James Cook got about 60% of the running back rush share last season. The other 40% went to scrubs like Latavius Murray and Damian Harris for a minute before he got hurt and retired. And was Leonard Fournette there for a minute? I don't know. A bunch of also rans back there, right? Now we got Ray Davis coming in, a player who ran for 1,000 yards on 3 different collegiate teams. Yes, he's old. He's not an elite athlete, but he's just such a dynamic space player. He has a nose to get through the line. Yeah, he runs people over. He's got a stiff arm. He's got a spin move. He just seems set up to be a 3-down back if they want him to be. Now, James Cook is certainly still going to get his 60%. Sure, give the other 40% to Ray Davis. And Ray Davis is probably going to get some high-value touches near the goal line, I would guess, because he's got, in my opinion, better size than James Cook. So it wouldn't surprise me to see these guys, in terms of raw production at the end of the season, be very close, at least in touchdowns and probably receptions as well. And, potentially yards, depending on what happens to James Cook, because he's not the biggest guy. So if there was something that happened to James Cook, we're going to see Ray Davis just skyrocket up the rankings and the ADP, I think. And he doesn't quite have the draft capital you want from a running back, but if he gets in the league and proves he can play for one of the best offenses in the league, I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. I'm high on Ray Davis as well, and and James Cook, as good as he was last year, there's some things that he didn't do well, and one of the things is red zone rushing, and he just, for some reason, they got down into the 10 zone and he couldn't get the ball into the end zone. Ray Davis excels at that. So I like that one a lot. Ryan, what guy do you want to talk about?
Terry McLaurin. I know we've talked about on the show before with different guests, but we have 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons with 10 different quarterbacks, with probably the most talented QB he's had in his career. And we haven't even seen him play an NFL down yet. But it's been so bad for him in the past, and he's still produced. I think at 38 is way below the floor. I think we have a minimum wide receiver 2, possibly high-end wide receiver 2, with what we can get him at 112 overall, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised me, right? Like he's ranked at 85, but for some reason he's being drafted at 112, and I think that comes down to being ageist, right? I think they just think of Terry McLaurin as an old receiver, and he's really not that old. He's still 27, 28. He's still pretty much very much in his prime. So Terry McLaurin going there at 112 ADP seemed awfully low to me. He was not one of the guys on my list as well. One guy I want to talk about, and it's towards the top of this list as far as difference, the variance of 62 spots. He's being ranked at 167, but not being drafted until 229, and that's Darnell Mooney. And, he gets overshadowed because they got some great offensive pieces there that we're all excited about. Obviously, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Of course, they got Bijan Robinson. Kirk Cousins is now in town. But Darnell Mooney, if you exclude the offensive line, is the second highest paid offensive player on that team right now, behind Kirk Cousins. I know it's not saying a whole lot when you got three guys on rookie contracts, but they went out and they paid him. I think it's like $13 million a year. There's a reason they went out and got him. I don't think that he's just there to be a decoy. He's 2 years removed from having 140 targets in Chicago. And Kirk Cousins has made number two receivers pretty relevant, maybe not irrelevant where you can have a every week starter. But guys like KJ Osborne was relevant for a while. He also had the Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon years when he was with the Commanders. So I like Darnell Mooney, especially for where he's going. I mean, at 229 ADP, I mean, you're basically getting him for free. At wide receiver 71 with some really good upside and what we think should be a pretty good offense. So I love Darnell Mooney from where he's going. Anything you wanted to add to either of those guys, Matt?
I don't know if you want me to. I disagree a little bit on both. Not because I don't think they're talented players. Like Terry McLaurin, I think is going to be totally fine. I'm not sure he's a difference maker, and not every player on your dynasty roster has to be a difference maker. I don't think he's a wide receiver one. I think he's a rock solid wide receiver two. And if Jaden Daniels' deep ball efficiency transfers to the NFL, like I think it will and hope it will, then I think McLaurin could definitely be a benefactor of that. And what is Jahan Dotson? We have no idea. What is Ben Sinnott? We have no idea. Zach Ertz is the corpse of Zach Ertz, and Luke McCaffrey is a fun player. But so from that standpoint, then I get it. I get it with McLaurin. It's just, I don't know, like in the 8th, 9th round, there's just like, it seems like there's other players that I want to take a shot on at that point. And then Darnell Mooney, like, I mean, I don't really know what to say about him. I think he's got the speed element. I just question the volume like that he's going to get. With Kirk Cousins there, he's fine at the deep ball, but I wouldn't say it's his strength. And I don't know where Mooney really plays in that offense outside of the deep threat with the two alphas there within Pitts and London, and of course Bijan getting probably 300 touches this year. So I don't mind it as like a dart throw, but probably not somebody that I'm really gonna plan on starting most weeks.
Fair enough. All right, you got another guy on your list there?
Yeah. Let's go with Cooper Kupp, and I'm going to spin this a little bit different from you guys. I know this is ADP rankings based thing, and I think probably from an ADP standpoint that these guys are probably more correct than the rankers in this case. That said, I pivot this way because I've been looking at trying to acquire some Cooper Kupp recently. If you go to DLF's website, we have a tool there called the Trade Finder, which pulls actual trades that come from my fantasy league. So actual trades that have happened within the last, you can set the time for every one. I pulled up some from the last couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and his price is just so dirt cheap right now. Ramondre Stevenson straight up. Somebody sent the 212, got Cooper Kupp and the 310 back, 110 for Cooper Kupp and a quarterback back in a Superflex league. 212 straight up, 301 straight up. So I'm going out there. I'm really making offers trying to acquire this guy. And in a startup, I mean, I know that 83. We're talking about the seventh round there. It seems like it's a little bit expensive for a 31-year-old. But if you've built your team in a way where you focused on youth early and you're still want to try to compete and throw in some production from a veteran, I think that's a great way to do it if you're loading up on youth early.
Yeah, 100% agree there. And throwing the trades out there really opens your eyes too as to what people think of Cooper Kupp right now. Because I mean, those are some pretty cheap trades for sure. They're selling Cooper Kupp, who You know, when he came back, I know he missed the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. He came back, I think he was averaging 14 points a game, something like that, which is pretty good for.
And would it like really surprise people if Cooper Kupp had, 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns this year, and Puka had 1,106? Like there's a world where Cooper Kupp is the better receiver this season in Los Angeles.
100% agree. Ryan, you got anybody else on your list there?
Yeah, more of this, the ADP to me seems insane at this point. That's Kyren Williams. We've kind of talked about him being nicked up, possibility being replaceable in that offense, and he's going as RB9 right now in the end of the 3rd round, being in the 4th. That's bananas to me.
It's crazy.
We're chasing all-time efficiency. If Cooper Kupp comes back to that offense, that takes away from red zone opportunities. They have Blake Corum, who they spent the draft capital on. And the injury, I'm so out on him at that price.
Yeah, he was one that I had on my list as well because I actually caught a lot of flack. I actually put out a graphic of my top 12 Dynasty running backs, and Kyren Williams actually was not on my top 12. I think he was 13, but he just missed my top 12, and people killed me for it. Like they thought like it was like the worst thing ever. And I'm like, he was just super efficient, had tremendous amount of volume last year. And I don't see it being repeatable, but it's possible, but I do think, it's a little bit more of a risky play for me on Kyren Williams.
Yeah, he's like we get burned by this profile so often. Like every year somebody gets burned, whether it's Dameon Pierce 2 years ago, Steve Slayton way back in the day, another Houston running back coincidentally. But yeah, like they've got Corum there. He seems like a more reliable version, at least in terms of availability, than Kyren Williams. So I can't spend that price either. Like that is to me, even though he's only 23, to me that is a declining asset, and you're drafting him usually at the end of the 3rd, early 4th round. Like there's just so many better options at that point. So I don't get that price either, man.
Agreed. So my next guy I want to talk about, and I'm probably responsible for this higher ADP. So the rankers had this guy at 79, ADP at 58. I participated in all those DLF mock drafts that produced this ADP, and I'm taking George Pickens higher than most. I've mentioned it on this podcast a couple times. I really think that he could have a huge leap from year 2 to year 3 with what we think could be a good quarterback in Russell Wilson. And even if it's not Russell Wilson, we think that Fields can be a decent quarterback to back him up. But Pickens, everything is set up for him. He's the number 1 receiver now. He doesn't have to contend with Deontay Johnson anymore. He's going to be, in that offense that has produced good receivers before in the past. I know there's a little bit of a trepidation with the new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, being there. But I think even still, I think George Pickens, it's wheels up for him. And for him to be, ranked at 79 and being drafted at 58, I think I'm taking him right around that same 58 range, if not a little bit higher than that. Ryan, what are your thoughts? I know you're there in Pittsburgh. Are you hearing anything about Pickens?
I mean, it's his job to lose there, man. Like they love him here, and they got rid of Deontay Johnson for other off-field reasons supposedly, but they wouldn't have done that if they didn't believe in him. We've seen Russ force feed guys, especially sideline players, in the past downfield. So if he's going to succeed, this is the best situation for him that he's had. Yeah. Because his game didn't match what Kenny Pickens did, but it kind of matched a little bit more, which we've seen with Courtland Sutton, what we've seen with DK Metcalf, with him throwing vertically to players like that. So I like him more. I like drafting George Pickens, even though he's made a little inflated. Wide receiver 34 doesn't seem bad for me.
Where do you fall on Pickens, Matt?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably a little bit ahead of ADP. I would pull up my rankings real quick, but I mean the situation is absolutely improved. Like there's no doubt about that. We got that ancient Matt Canada offense out of the way, where we're gonna, where he's just running rinse sprints basically. It is a little bit scary with Arthur Smith and what they did with the passing game there, but the quarterbacks are probably the larger part of that. I would argue. So we'll have to see. He's the unquestioned number one. Roman Wilson, the only competition truly. I do think Pat Freiermuth could have a pretty nice bounce back season as well, as the secondary target there. But yeah, I'm slightly ahead of consensus on him. I have him at wide receiver 32 currently. I think he's 34 by rankings here. So
by rankings. Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's do one more, Ryan. We'll go to you this time. Give me one more guy you like.
I like the Evan Ingram approach right now, going tight end 13. I know the ADP's ahead of it. He is getting a little bit older, but he had the best year of his season last year, finished tight end 6. I know we love our young tight ends, but the way fantasy football works, especially that position, we see that later breakout in most cases, and the cheap buy window comes. Even we've seen struggles with unbeatable talents like Kyle Pitts who can absolutely bounce back, but we've seen struggles and his value go down. Ingram's in the prime spot. He is the true red zone threat there. I know we talked about that offense before, but he is the red zone threat because of his skill set on an offense that should be improving, and which will give me more red zone opportunities. I like him there because I can be more patient on tight end, because if you don't have one of the elite guys, I'd rather have somebody who's a little bit older who I know can produce.
Yeah, I'm with you on Evan Ingram. Actually, I've been drafting him a lot in the Scott Fishbowl mock drafts that we've been doing, because people are sleeping on him. I mean, he had a monster season last year. He's maybe older, but he's not old. He's still super athletic. He had a huge season last year. Trevor Lawrence is still there. So, yeah, tight end 13 is, it's outside the top 12, which to me that seems awfully low. Matt, what are your thoughts on Ingram? And then you have another guy you want to talk about?
I'm just pulling up some stats real quick. I do like Evan Ingram quite a bit. I do worry, though, that because a lot of his, I do worry about him a little bit this season because they added Brian Thomas, obviously, and now if Christian Kirk plays the whole season, I don't necessarily think we get the Evan Ingram that we got last season. A lot of his massive games came when Kirk was off the field from weeks 14 to 18 to the end of the season. During that time frame was when Ingram had, where'd it go? He had his biggest games, I would say, 95 yards and a couple of touchdowns, another 15 targets, 10 catches, 13 targets, 10 catches, 12 targets, 11 catches. So all of these super high volume games came when Evan Ingram was out of the offense, when Christian Kirk was out of the offense with that injury. So if he is fully healthy and Brian Thomas is as good as we think he is, then I think we could see less volume for Ingram. But in general, I agree with you. He's a great fit for the offense. Trevor Lawrence really likes him. It seems like he's kind of a safety valve for him. So we'll see. I think we're probably going to get a little bit of a depressed season compared to last year, but he's still a very good option. And if you're outside of those top 5 to 6, maybe 7 guys, depending on who you want to throw in there, then I think Evan Ingram is right there in the next tier. So you could have him as high as 8, I think.
Agreed. So one more guy I wanted to talk about real quick, and I want to get your thoughts too on this guy, Matt. Jackson Smith-Njigba, currently being ranked at 55, but not being drafted until 75, a difference of 20 spots. And I'm of the mind that I know they re-signed Tyler Lockett, and people are like, they re-signed him, and Jackson Smith will be number 3 again. But I do think that JSN, takes over for Tyler Lockett at some point this season, if not week 1. I think Lockett is still there. He's still good. But he wasn't as efficient as he was in years past this past year. I do think he is declining, and I do think JSN is going to eventually take over for his spot. And even in the spots that, he had last year, he was still a pretty good receiver as a rookie. I know everyone wanted him to be more than he was in his rookie season, but you go back and look at his targets and his yardage that he put up, that's a pretty solid rookie season. I think he's just going to build on it in year 2.
Yeah, he's such a tough evaluation in terms of what to do with him for Dynasty, because he was the wide receiver 1 going away in last year's class. And we knew he was going to struggle a little bit because he was the 3rd wide receiver in a run heavy offense. Right. But it just seemed like there was a chance either through contingency value or contingency upside with an injury, or with the offensive coordinator there, Shane Waldron, who had previously come from Los Angeles and played in heavy 3 wide receiver sets. I just had a lot of hope for him, and he disappointed from a weekly standpoint, but it wasn't really his fault. His ADOT was like basically at the line of scrimmage, right? So yeah, so like if that changes this year, I think we're going to see a much better JSN, and we have Brian Grubb there now. Grubb from Washington, who just came off of a stellar passing season with 3 great wide receivers, right? With Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Polk there at Washington University. So, he's experienced with 3 wide receiver sets, and I agree with you. It just Lockett, he's just always going to be there. He's just what he does so well. But I would like to see him transition more into the slot and give JSN some more opportunities outside, because even though we've kind of stuck JSN as a pure slot player, I don't think he is. I think he can win outside. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that. In terms of his price though, like, man, I don't know. Like, I do think that it's closer to ADP. Have this one over the rankers at 55 versus 75 for ADP. I think it's a little bit closer for the ADP, but not by too much. I think it's a fine range. It's just, to me, a very risky player, because we see players that as rookies disappoint and then often continue to disappoint.
Fair point.
So I hope that isn't the case for JSN. He's such a talent. So we'll have to see. I just really want Tyler Lockett to get out of the way, and I don't think that's happening this year.
Agreed. Hey, Ryan, give us one more of your guys.
One more of my guys. All right.
Make this the last one.
I feel like this is more redraft, but the fact he's free, and it's disgusting, but I'm still doing it. I'm taking Zeke in like 17th or 18th round, because he's still getting volume. And even if it's a 1-year rental on Dynasty, in that round, in that spot, you're getting a player you can play and can fill in. Even if he's an RB3 and a flex option, he's going to at least be that. Like, it's a solid floor for him.
Yeah.
I hate it. It feels wrong, but I'm kind of in on it. And I've grabbed him everywhere and done it. I've been grabbing every best ball I've done. And I'll grab him Dynasty for free too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, man. I think it's going to be gross. It's not going to be pretty, but he's probably going to lead the backfield in touches. Rico Dowdle is almost a nothing as a receiver. So maybe Dowdle is the guy at the end, at the goal line, and gets more of the touchdowns. But in the passing role as a pass protector, Zeke, I think, has him beat at all those levels. So I think he's going to be on the field. So does he give you a weekly, like, low end running back 2 for the running back 61 price? I mean, you got to take that, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to catch 50 balls.
Yeah,
this year if he's healthy.
Just by default. Yeah, just by default, because he has to, because there's nobody else to catch him.
Yep.
Agreed. All right. That wraps up this or that. Let's get to some listener questions.
Go ahead. Ask me anything.
All right, Ryan, we'll go to you first. This one is from Tyler Lucier on the Discord. He just wants to know straight up, this is a Superflex PPR 12-team league. You want Ricky Pearsall or Danny Dimes straight up?
Oh, God, I feel like I'm going to hate for this. I'm taking Danny Dimes. It's a starting quarterback in Superflex. I know Pearsall's fine. I really like Pearsall just because his college highlights were exciting. But he's still the best case scenario, the 5th receiving option on that team. I know Ayuk's playing some weird games. If he's gone, this could change. But Danny Dimes is going to give you, if he's healthy, rushing upside. And they're going to be throwing good bigs. It's not a great team, and Barkley's gone. So I think we're going to have a garbage time hero for a year or 2.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about you, Matt? You fall on the same side of this trade?
Man, you think I would with the Superflex format, but I can't do it. I can't. I just can't. Maybe as like my quarterback 4 or something, but like I haven't looked to see where he's going at ADP, unfortunately. But I imagine it's still probably too much for my taste. Last season, 2 touchdowns. All of them came in the 4th quarter of the week 2 game against Arizona, which was kind of a comeback win for them. And you thought, oh, maybe there is something here with this Danny kid. He's back, right? And then 3 straight games of 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 interceptions, and then that week 5 games against Miami, he gets hurt, and then he comes back, I think, in week 9 and he basically gets hurt, or does he get hurt, or he's just so bad he gets pulled? I can't remember. I think it was so bad he got pulled, right? So I just don't know. And then I know he has the massive contract too, but if you look at it, there's actually an out after this season, according to Spotrac. There's an out after this 2024 season. There would be 22 million in dead cap, but with the salary cap continuing to go up, and if he's just not the guy this year, I can't imagine they're going to stick with him another year. And then you have Kenny Pickett on your dynasty roster, right? You have a backup quarterback that's you probably start some point, still has some value, certainly in Superflex leagues, but it's just such a risky play. I mean, the opposite could absolutely work out. He could have a great season. We love Brian Daboll. He finally has a weapon with Malik Neighbors, right? So the opposite could actually absolutely be true. It's more of a risk than I want to take on at his price tag. So I'm probably going to go with Pearsall and just hope that one of those wide receivers gets traded and Pearsall gets some good action this year. But I mean, you can't fault it. It's Superflex. The quarterbacks are king, right?
Yep, 100% agree. All right, Ryan, we got a question in the chat here. It's just a very general question here. What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray, just in general?
I like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, when healthy, Kyler Murray has produced on the field. It has been ugly with interceptions and turnovers, yes, but it's always still he's put you on that roller coaster. And why it might not always be wins in real football, it's a ton of fantasy points he's paid. He has the best receiver he's ever had in his career now with Marvin Harrison. I like him, and I think right now he's at a fair price in Dynasty at QB8, maybe taking a couple spots lower, but I like Kyler Murray. If he's on the field, he's a great starter for you.
Yeah.
In our June Superflex ADP at DLF, he is quarterback 11, 14th overall. I think he's an absolute value at that point. Like I
had June up. I had May up for some reason.
Yeah, he's like. I mean, I understand Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, but the offensive situation is not great. Caleb Williams is ahead of him. Joe Burrow is ahead of him. Jordan Love's ahead of him. He's one of 3 to 4 quarterbacks who has the true talent and opportunity to both throw for 4,500, maybe 5,000 yards and run for 700-800 yards. Like he's that kind of talent to me. And every time he's been in the field, like you said, he's been a quarterback 1. So you're basically buying him at his floor right now, in my opinion. And I mean, he's a perennial threat to be a top 5 quarterback at the end of the year, every year, I think.
Agreed, 100%. All right, this next one is from C. Pezzo on Discord, Matt, and this one's sort of a situation versus talent. He's on the clock in the rookie draft, and he wants to know Bucky Irvin or Braylon Allen. Of course, Bucky Irvin has the better situation, where Braylon Allen, he thinks is the better talent. What are your thoughts here on these two guys?
I mean, to take the player you like here. I think I'm probably leaning Braylon Allen. I get the situation. I actually think that this year's Rachaad White is probably just Rachaad White. Again, I think the volume is still going to be there for him. I think he's probably a better pass catcher than Bucky Irvin. Remember, Bucky Irvin played with Bo Nix, the king of the checkdowns. He played in this offense that's constantly checking down. I mean, the number of screen passes that Bucky Irvin got last year was just out of this world. So, and Braylon Allen's been getting a ton of buzz in camp. If something were to happen to Breece Hall, God forbid, then I feel like he's already passed Izzy Abanikanda. He's passed Isaiah Davis. He's passed all of those other guys there, and he's going to be the true guy. And even if something doesn't happen to Braylon Allen, I feel like he's going to be involved at the goal line and to take advantage of that size. So maybe he gets some high value touches there. I get the reasoning going behind Bucky Irving, but to me, the athleticism is just too poor at that position for me. So I'm going to stick with Braylon Allen here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, and I think you made a good point there. I think if Breece goes down, I think Braylon Allen is the starter. Whereas if Rachaad White goes down, I don't know if Bucky Irving is the starter. I think he stays in that number 2 role no matter what happens. So I think Allen would be the number 1. So that's kind of why I lean towards Allen in that sense. All right, Ryan, this one's for you. It's a 1 QB Dynasty tight end premium. He wants to know which side, Jahan Dotson or Marshawn Lloyd?
Oh, God, this one hurts my heart because I've been very much a Jahan Dotson person for a pretty long time. But at this point, I'm probably leaning Lloyd. He's in an offense that's proved to be good for running backs. I know he's behind Josh Jacobs, who's an absolute stud, but Josh Jacobs also has 1,000 touches in the past like 4 years.
Yeah.
So I like Lloyd there. It's close, and I think it's based off your team a lot, which is the most cop-out answer you can have in something like this. But my head versus my heart, I'm going to lean my head with Lloyd on this a little bit.
Go with Lloyd. Okay. Where do you fall on this one, Matt? I'm just curious.
This one is, I think, I shouldn't say slam dunk, but it feels like a slam dunk for me for Marshawn Lloyd. He was the most efficient running back in college football last year at 8.2 yards per touch. Is a 4.46, a 97th percentile speed score. I just think he's going to be an incredible fit in this offense. I don't think it's going to be like an AJ Dillon kind of role, how AJ Dillon was with Aaron Jones there. I think it's going to be closer to maybe not a 50-50 split, but 60-40, 55-45, something like that. They're going to want to take advantage of the dynamic nature of Marshawn Lloyd's game. I think, look, if you want to just hammer the ball into the back of the offensive line and hope there's a hole there for him, I think that Josh Jacobs is your guy. But I think if you want some dynamic playmaking ability, stop ability, he just makes so many players miss in the open field. And he's small, but he's short, but he's not small. 5'8", 3'4", 220. He's got the size to be a full workload back in the NFL. So I don't think it's this year. I don't necessarily think it's next year, although there is an out in Josh Jacobs' contract after the 2024 season. So it could be if Lloyd shows out like it did. Now he does have some ball security issues, right? 8 career fumbles. So that's not something that the Packers staff is going to like. As a Packers fan, I definitely know that. So he's going to have to hold on to the ball, but everything else, I just think he can be a more dynamic player in that offense than Josh Jacobs. And then Jahan Dotson, I mean, the rookie season was so great. It started off with 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first 2 games. And then, we just haven't seen it since then. And I'm so excited about Jaden Daniels. I'm not convinced he can support more than one receiving option from a fantasy standpoint on a weekly basis in year 1. So I'm going to go Lloyd here.
All right. Yeah. Sweep it. I'm going to go Lloyd as well. All right, last question here is for you, Matt Price, specifically. It's from Hep in the Discord, and he just wants to know, what is volunteering, getting to help out with Fantasy Cares, Scott Fishbowl, FCE, et cetera? What does it mean to you to be able to do that kind of stuff?
Oh, it's so awesome, man. I mean, being involved with Scott Fishbowl and getting to do toy shops and stuff every year and volunteering to set up these leagues, it's everything. I mean, it's changed the way that I play Dynasty. I don't create new leagues now unless there's a charity component to it. There's just no reason to anymore. If you have people, I think it's a great weeder option. Like if you're playing in like leagues with, maybe you can't fill, we're lucky. It's pretty easy for us to fill leagues if we want to on Twitter. We post something and we can usually fill a league pretty quickly. But for somebody who's trying to make sure that this is a good league that you're creating, getting managers in there, if you put a charity component and somebody says they have a problem with it, that's immediate red flag. Like if they're not okay with that, then they're probably going to be a pain in the butt in your league for you as a commissioner, right? So yeah, Fantasy Cares has changed the way that I play fantasy, play Dynasty, play fantasy football, and it's been such a great experience. And Hep, like if you guys don't know, Hep is the engine that runs the Fantasy Cares Eliminators. He took over it from the main role from John Bosch this year, who was the creator of it several years ago. And we have the system streamlined. We have 3 or 4 volunteers. People are creating leagues and then doing invites, and he's staying in all the DMs and taking DMs for people that are coming over from Sleeper that are now trying to learn my fantasy league. And so Hep is doing God's work out there, man. So thank you so much, Hep, and thanks for letting me be involved, man. Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, let's get to our final segment of the night.
Get ready for goingfor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, so the last time we did this, because we didn't do a show last week, and then 2 weeks ago we didn't have this segment because we had too many people on. But the last time we did this, Ryan got the Forgotten Fantasy Player in one guess.
Wow.
He literally said our guest pointed to a little sign on the screen that was the Dallas Cowboy sign, and Ryan was able to get it off of that. I don't know how he did it, but he pulled it out. So you hopefully you can come stronger than that, Matt.
It's one of only 2 times it's ever happened.
What was the player?
It was a Dallas Cowboy.
Oh my God! It was Marion Barber.
Marion Barber, yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think this is for old Cowboys players.
I feel like this one might be a little bit harder. How do you want me to roll out the clues? Like give you the simple stuff first? All right. So I'll say that he's a wide receiver that was. This is going to date me a little bit. I don't know how long you guys have been playing any fantasy football, but
96.
Okay, so you might remember this guy. Drafted 53 overall in the second round of the 1999 NFL draft. He's a wide receiver.
1999.
The first year I ever watched the draft, and I remember collecting football cards that year.
You want me to give you the team?
Yeah, let's see.
The team that drafted him was the Buffalo Bills.
That's too soon for Sammy Watkins. So that's the first thing that popped into my head, but that's way too long ago.
04.
Tell me when you want more clues.
It's on the tip of my tongue, but keep going.
He played for 3 NFL teams between 1999 and 2007.
2007.
I can picture.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here. I'm
okay.
Trying to
his final 2 seasons were with the team that drafted him, but not the 3 years in between.
So he was a Bill, and then went back to the Bills.
He was a Bill. He got paid, and then came back to the Bills later.
Oh my God, I cannot think of any.
His career best season was in 2002 at his age 26 season. He went 94 receptions on 148 targets for 1,252 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Oh my God.
We're usually better than this, I promise you.
That's cool, man. This is a hard one. I went hard for you guys.
Yes, you did. There's very few that I think we've only not gotten it one time.
The second
Is
team.
it Brandon Lloyd?
Sorry?
Brandon Lloyd?
It is not Brandon Lloyd.
That was 2. Yeah, I think that was 2.
That's 2 now. No.
His second team was the Atlanta Falcons, who he pretty much severely disappointed for. I think he had 1 good year there and 2 seasons with Atlanta. 3 seasons with Atlanta. 2 seasons with Atlanta. So he's drafted by Buffalo, played with them until 2002, went to Atlanta in 2003, went to Dallas in 2005, and then went back to Buffalo for 2006, 2007.
I feel like I have a name and I can't think of it right now. I could picture.
Let's see if I can give you some of his wide receiver teammates to see if that helps you out. The quarterback during his rookie season was Doug Flutie. He played alongside Eric Moulds.
Eric Moulds is the name I was trying to think of, so I guess that's not the one I'm thinking of.
He played alongside a 35-year-old Andre Reed.
Oh my God, you stumped it.
All right, I'm going to give you another. If you don't, you might get it on this hint. He has no peers.
Has
no peers.
Oh my God.
Stevie Johnson.
That's not that one. That's a good guess though. Stevie Styles, man, he was fun.
There's another guy that's his first name is Lee. Is it first name is Lee?
That is somebody he played with, Lee Evans. That is not the player though.
That's the first player I was thinking about, and I couldn't remember his name.
All right. Do you want me to get to more obvious clues?
Yeah.
I share a last name with him.
Peerless
Price.
Peerless Price. Yes.
Wow. No peers. Oh, that was good.
That was good.
That was such a good clue.
Oh my God. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like,
oh, that was such a good clue.
Wow, that was a good one, man. That was a really, really good one.
Thanks. I loved him.
I think there's been twice we haven't gotten it. One of them was we had John Lobb on, and he went back into the 70s to get his guy. I was like, that was too far back for me, but that was a very good one.
Nice.
All right, well, that wraps the show up. We'll go around the room real quick. Just give us your Twitter handle, anything you wanted to plug, and then we'll get out of here. We'll go to you first, Matt.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MattPriceFF. Everything of terms of my work is over at Dynasty League Football, the DLF Dynasty podcast with myself, Ryan McDowell, and Dan Myler as the host of that show. And then the Dynasty Game Night. If you like games, if you like playing games, play along with us while we record that show. Written stuff is also over there, although it's been maybe a month or two since I've written anything. So probably some rookie stuff coming out soon.
Good stuff. Ryan, what you got going on?
I feel embarrassed thinking. I was like, I love games, and now I'm like, I'm
Oh, we got to get you on then, man.
After that performance, I won't let me. Find me here Wednesday nights to go for 2, and then find me over at the Rookie Big Board, the Dynasty Big Board podcast on Wednesday mornings.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, if you're not already in our Discord, we are running literally 10 to 15 mocks, it seems, today for the Scott Fish Bowl, getting ready for that. I do want to shout out, we had a awesome day on Father's Day where we had an anonymous donor that matched up to $2,500 for that one day only. And we were able to get the full match. So our pool for going for 2 is now up to $5,000, which has already crushed our goal from last year. So we are well on our way to crushing it again this year. So shout out to everybody that's been in the chat, everybody that's in the Discord, everybody that follows the show. We really appreciate all the support. And with that said, I will plug one more time. I am raffling off my first round pick in the Scott Fish Bowl. For every $5 donated, I will give you an entry into the raffle. And we are doing a live stream. So I'm doing the DC live draft. I'm the host of that. So you will actually get to pick my pick live on the live stream of that day if you win. So again, every $5 donated gets you a ticket into the raffle. You can find the link on my Twitter page. It's on the Going for 2 website, pretty much everywhere that I'm at in the Discord. You can find it there as well. Go take care of that so we can crush our goal once again. For Matt, for Ryan, I am Jeff, and we will see y'all next week.